Yes, indeed it is true, and yes, indeed it is beautiful. Hello again there, friends and fans, Raptor here, and a few days ago you were all telling me that the City Skylines 2 screenshots leaked via the Xbox/Microsoft website, and my golly, do they look absolutely incredible and confirming some things that I had some concerns about, some hopes and dreams and wishes, and boy oh boy, these pre-release screenshots and things that will be a part of the vanilla game look incredible. Well, join me now as we take our first look at some of these screenshots, break them down, and build some hype for what hopefully will be the defining City Skylines, even better than the original, even with mods. That's what I hope for. Hey, get hyped, get excited, but of course, you know, your expectations and reality may not always match up, but I think we have ourselves a solid dub in an upcoming city builder that is going to blow everyone's minds. And of course, will be available on consoles too, which might actually be a little hindering. But we'll talk about that. Let's get started. And there it is in all of its city building glory, our first look at City Skylines 2. There it is. That's what the game will look like. And man, does that look like a beautiful city. And at first glance, it kind of reminds me of SimCity from 2013, actually, with all the modern-looking buildings that game tried to create that were made of steel and glass and concrete. But in the middle of the screen, luckily, we see some buildings made of red brick and, of course, look like they're from the 20s to the 60s, at least in the United States, and styles that are mixed from Europe, such as those at the middle of the screen. But I've got to say, look at the roadway. That is beautiful. Immediately some hints there. If you look very closely at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a lot of motorcycles parked on the side of the screen and just running down the road. So it looks like we'll have some motorcycle traffic. Perhaps we could build motorcycle and bus lanes that are mixed together. And also a little Easter egg there at the lower right corner, the snowman down there at the bottom right. But look at all the buildings. They look beautiful. Of course, made from brick and glass and a mix of all sorts of different buildings. But there is a concern on this screenshot, and I don't know if you've noticed it yet, but many of you with a key eye may have. In the middle of the screen, just above the intersection, we have ourselves some green triangles, and those are notoriously difficult to fill, even in the original City Skylines with mods, typically being filled with a tree or two, or perhaps like a little walkway, or some sort of decoration. I feel like we really need a paint tool here, and perhaps it exists, to be able to possibly put down some brick or some asphalt or concrete, and then maybe put like a hot dog stand there, or a newsstand, or some sort of commercial building, or perhaps like a fence for dumpsters or something along those lines. Those are always difficult to fill, but it confirms that buildings certainly are snapping as they normally do to the nodes, and that is just a minimal concern compared to how glorious this looks. At the top of the screen, it appears to almost be snowing, as where those are a little larger than possibly stars, but you can see the rolling hills in the background at the very end of the road there. And look at the tram. Let's take a little bit of a closer look here. Boom, right there at the tramway. That is really nice, really well laid out. You can see the intersection there for it going from avenue to avenue with tram, but then also on the right side, the trees there that also make an avenue too, a two-way, four-lane road, two going one way, two going the other for that avenue. Gorgeous. And another great thing, look at how cool the cars look. We certainly have everything from what looks to be full-size sedans to cargo vans, and also a lot of little smart cars for some reason, but of course the motorcycles that are there too, and perhaps there'll be different types of policies for the size of cars in your cities, which of course would be interesting for how you build your roads. We can also see the car on kind of the center on the right side, the teal looking car right above is a 35 mile per hour or 35 kilometer per hour sign there, which is also very nice. It'd be really cool to be able to modify the roadways to different types of styles in real life, European, Japanese, or North American or whatnot, to see those different types of road signs laid out on the road rather than it just being on the side. That'd be good. But overall, a beautiful look at this game, and I've got to say that makes me very excited. This is hands down the single most important screenshot in City Builder game history. Look at this. This is the roads of City Skylines 2, and not just that, but highways, on-ramps, off-ramps, commuter trains, pathways, and the overall layout of the city, as well as density of trees. This is incredibly important. And look at that! That is a roundabout over there. Look at that in all of its glory. A small roundabout, vanilla, custom in the game, not massive. No need to make the plus or the X and connect the nodes to make a circle anymore. That is beautiful. Looking back at the main screenshot again, just look at all those beautiful roadways, and not only just the city itself, but the lighting too. The sun shining from the upper left corner there and bringing all the beautiful long shadows across all the grass and the buildings and, of course, the parking lots and even the highways and roadways. It's gorgeous. There is so much to unpack here. It's incredible how much detail is in this singular shot. We have what looks to be parking garages, parking lots, and all sorts of different structures, which could be possibly like a hospital or a fire department or whatnot. It looks gorgeous. Let's take another closer look at that roundabout, to where I see something a little weird here. It looks like there's lines that are etched on the roadway, kind of like Google or Apple Maps, where it's showing pathways to where vehicles will go, not just necessarily the wear and tear of the roads or where traffic may, possibly park or whatnot, that they've used different materials like concrete and asphalt. No, it actually looks as if there is some sort of a layout here showing where traffic is allowed to go, and so possibly the overlay of a light traffic management system or something more. But I've got to say, that roundabout is beautiful to see, and I hope we get options that allow us to possibly scale roundabouts from ultra small to very large and all in between, with different types of lanes, options, and integrations for things like pathways and trams and trains and other things like that. Going back to the main screenshot again, we can see that there's a tunnel at the bottom of the screen and even a on or off ramp there leading from the highway. And look at the integration of the highway, how it all blends together. Let's focus on that. Zooming in now, we see the highway system, the beautiful curves of the highway and splits in the highway too, where it actually connects into different lanes and goes in different directions, one heading south here and another heading southeast. And the on-ramp on the right side there's a tunnel and an on-ramp. Look at the amount of detail and time that you could use like playing and building all this is absolutely incredible. And this is probably one of the biggest draws of City Skylines over SimCity 2013. That's why I think it snatched the crown back then and is now the defining city builder, is because of all these options to build roads on all these. You see a lot of different landscape here. The highway seems to be a little bit lower than the city, and over on the right side you can actually see a tunnel where the highway's going into several off-ramps that are leading both south and then onto the highway there. That is incredible. There's so much detail there and so many different options, but yet again looking like City Skylines. The bones are here, right? The initial frame of City Skylines is here in City Skylines 2, yet it just looks so different yet familiar at the same time. Going to the bottom now where the tunnel is, yeah, we can see a road actually going what seems to be maybe over the tunnels, possibly the tunnel starting just beneath that road or just right on the edge. Looks like we don't need the Move It mod anymore to nudge things up and be overlapping on top vertically anymore. Well, of course, we obviously will need it, and that'll probably be a thing, but it is nice to see these buildings kind of fitting snug on the edge of that block and being so close to the highway. Where I live, there's a lot of highways that go down and that are sunken, like this one here, that show kind of the retaining walls on either side of the surface road that's just above, and a lot of homes and whatnot are built there. But again, a lot of different options here for building a large structure, like what I'm going to just assume is a possible fire department on the left side because of the 2 lanes and large garage. But yeah, you could of course fill that in and eventually have just nothing but high density all around that, or medium density commercial and residential, or just leave the trees. Either way, it looks fantastic. I love it. Looking over to the right side now, we see a pedestrian bridge, or possibly a bike path, that has, and it's kind of hard to see zooming in this close, but there is an actual suspension bridge there. Yeah, it looks like possibly a noise barrier just below that bridge, and you can actually see the suspension bridge and the support beam in between the highway that's holding up that pedestrian bridge, and that just looks really cool. And that's one of the things I wanted to see more in City Skylines, is the ability for people to walk everywhere, from their home to then walk across the highway to then go to like a train station. And in the initial screenshot, there is a train station on the left side for that commuter rail, so it should be entirely possible for someone to walk from their home to a train station without ever getting into a car, especially if you're trying to build those cities of ultra-high density. Looking on the left side now of that tunnel, you can actually see a commuter train coming just under that bridge that's curving, and it looks really nice. It looks like this was made in no time at all. It doesn't look like any sort of expertise was needed to make this. It just seems like the game allows for what you see on the left side there, that awkward intersection of the crosswalk going in kind of a V pattern towards the rail station in the upper side of the screen. But it does show, of course, multiple train tracks too that are splitting just on the left side of that commuter train. Just below the bridge, you can see that splitting off into 3 different branches there, and even 3 more just next to the train as well, where there's an opposite track and then again a split that could go into a very busy train station. We have yet to see more on that, but man, is it exciting. And now moving on to one of the most promising aspects of City Skylines 2, our first look at what it will look like as a game. Yeah, here we are. This is the HUD and all the tools that we'll be using to build our big, beautiful, and gorgeous cities, and of course, monitoring how they are doing both financially and of course functionally too, with all different aspects of traffic and density and health and whatnot. This is certainly City Skylines 1 in its presentation, but why fix what's already working well? In fact, it looks like all they've done is improved upon it, giving it a fresh new look, but also some extra details and making a few things pop. Looking at the bottom of the screen, you can see all the options for things like date and population and money. Over on the left side, it looks like they've got a little bit more detail on population and, of course, the statistics showing up as it did in the original game. Let's take a little closer look at that. So zooming in now, we see a little bit more detail, including something that's caught my eye right away. Two things. On the fourth line there next to the bus is an open envelope and kind of like a quotation bubble. And I wonder what those two will be used for. Interesting that it's on the same line as what could be for mass transit, possibly. But it just seems that they're all separated to kind of monitor, keep track of things. Although at the very bottom we see what could be pollution, both ground pollution, water pollution, noise, and air pollution. But looking further, we have the green and blue and yellow squares for both residential, commercial, and industrial, but something in purple there. Could that be for offices? Could that be for possibly mixed zoning? I don't know. We can always speculate for ever and ever, but it certainly has piqued my interest. And another thing there, we have a pine tree next to a picnic table, and also an arrow that's pointing upper left, lower right, but then a little bag in the middle, possibly for tourists. Not sure, but yeah, I like the fact that at least it breaks down on the right side there, the larger population screen, just giving you a real nice quick look at everything, or really more details without really having to look too far into it. Of course, the large screen that we just saw showing, overall population, but if you need a little bit more information, hit that, and there you go. All the buttons at the bottom of the screen too, showing that residential, commercial, industrial there at the bottom, and the next button at the bottom, the kind of translucent square, transparent square, kind of showing what could be for the district zones, and then possibly monuments, roads, power, water, health and recycling, or really garbage and trash management. We have education, fire department, police departments, mass transit, parks, and then again, that quotation option, and I'm not sure what that could be. It must be something more important if it's at the bottom of the screen. Of course, feel welcome to throw out your speculations and thoughts too on what you think as we kind of continue to look at things, and obviously the next one being a shovel, more than likely for possibly terraforming, and then of course a bulldozer for construction and, destruction. But of course you'll be clicking that a lot as you build your roads. Going a little further to the right of the screen, we have a few more options for what possibly is money management and route management too for mass transit, and also a smiley face at the very right corner. If you've watched this far into the video, give me a little smiley face down below in the comment section too, because I hope everybody's gobbling up every morsel of these screenshots too, and that of course will be a little bit more related to overall city happiness, and that probably will break down your move-in rate and people moving into the city and overall happiness on tax rates and stuff. That'll be important. But it looks like this city, despite its happiness, is losing 2,521 people per hour. So, I don't know. But hey, Chirpy's over there too. Look at him. Looking all happy. Going back to the left screen, we see the what could be the possible size of the city, 137 squares? No, don't tell me we can build a massive city. That can't be possible. That's got to be something else. Perhaps 137 occupied zones or something? Maybe a limit for consoles. Ugh. I don't know. Maybe the console version can only have X number. But over on the left side, it does seem that there's a large possible airport and maybe a bus or system, or maybe a train that goes into that as well. You can see the taxiway and the runway there, but then also it looks to be a train line that comes in off of that. But lots of nice layout here. Very clean, concise, well laid out. Doesn't need to be overcomplicated, but certainly has a lot of options without being too pushy. And I like that. It's pretty good. And now we move on to a closer look at a city that seems to be really thriving. Modern commercial buildings in the background and some beautiful looking residential brick buildings a little closer to us. And one thing I really like here, and we're going to take a closer look at, is all the fire escapes too, and details to the buildings that go beyond just their form and their shape and building material, but also other things that seem to have been added over time, such as the fire escapes on the left too. Water towers on the left side as well, that closer building, and further away, a commercial building with a billboard on the top of it. Let's move on now to the street view, and again, more mopeds and motorcycles and cars that seem to be possibly parked onto the side of the road, people walking all around, and I gotta say, some of these buildings are very far away from the street too. I hope we get options to kind of maybe shrink lawns and have the buildings actually a little closer to the road, so we get a much denser building that way, almost like the wall-to-wall building in the city skylines too. But also as well. But yeah, another snowman on the left side. Kind of weird. It looks like there's also piles of snow possibly on the ground, or looks like maybe transparent textures of a game that's not yet complete, as these of course are kind of just early promotional screenshots. But gotta say, I like the look of the cars and how all the roads look, and I'm glad that again we're not getting jelly beans and marshmallows anymore. Looking again closer at the skyline on the left side, at the very top, hard to see, there is a plane flying over, and again two buildings that look relatively the same in the middle, but I love those angled buildings on the right side, certainly feeling like 80s and 90s there. And of course, far left side, some of those buildings looking like they're made of more concrete, more steel, and of course a lot of glass too, which looks phenomenal. And back to the right side, that residential skyscraper. I love the look of that building. You can also, if you look very closely, can see AC units in all the windows too. So imagine this with mods. This is a starting point where we have fire escapes that look great. We have windows that have AC units in them. If you were to throw like maybe a picture of Spider-Man, like a PNG, in the middle of this swinging through town, you could almost convince somebody that this is like a screenshot for a promotional image of the upcoming Spider-Man games, of him swinging through New York. I mean, it's pretty damn detailed compared to, you know, where we have been in the past, and I just love the look of that. So anyway, that is all the time we have today for City Skylines 2, some images that were showcased on the Microsoft Store / Xbox Store. And yeah, let me know your thoughts, let me know your excitement, your thoughts and concerns and things that you're excited about. I certainly am only now excited for more, and I need to see much more of this game. Hopefully sometime soon from Paradox we get some actual gameplay footage, or an event where they could possibly showcase this thing for like an entire 2 hours and still not even cover every basic feature in the game. All right, well that's it for me for now. I'll see you. Goodbye.